10 AI tools you need in 2026? That's the title, and you've seen 40 versions of it. Here's the part those lists skip. You don't need 10 tools. You need one test. Does a tool change a real workflow you repeat, or does it just look good in a demo? That single question decides what's worth your time and what's just noise. So we'll count down 10 tools, 10 to 1, and score each one on it. By the end, you'll keep one or two, ignore the rest, and stop feeling behind. So let me name what these lists are really selling you. One of them seriously names 46 AI tools you must use this year. Reading it doesn't make you informed, it makes you tired. It sells you a feeling that everyone else figured this out, and you're the only one slipping. You're not slipping, and the data quietly agrees with that. The reviewers who actually tested 200+ tools kept a tiny handful inside, the ones they still pay for and open every single day. Everything else got tried once and quietly forgotten. A demo is a magic trick. Daily use is the receipt, and that gap between the trick and the receipt is where almost all of your wasted time and money hides. So here's the thing to watch as we count down. Not what each tool can do on a stage, but what it actually changes in a normal week of your real work. Some of these will be obvious. A couple will surprise you, and at least one I'm going to tell you to skip on purpose. Number 10 first. Number 10, ElevenLabs. Let's start with the one people most often overrate. It turns typed text into narration that genuinely sounds human, and it's the quiet engine behind a lot of faceless videos you've already watched without ever noticing. Say you run a small channel and you can't stand the sound of your own voice on camera. This hands you a studio-grade narrator for the price of a monthly subscription. The capability is real, and the market clearly agrees. ElevenLabs just raised at an $11 billion valuation, with around $500 million in annual revenue by early 2026. That kind of money tells you the voice problem is basically solved as a business. But notice how narrow the actual workflow is. If you don't make audio or video, a perfect voice generator changes nothing about your Tuesday. There's a quieter cost too. Synthetic narration still needs honest disclosure, and listeners can often feel when there's no real person behind the voice. It's a tool, not a personality, and audiences still reward a personality. So this one earns its spot only if you publish content for a living. For everyone else, admire it and move on. Number 9, Descript. Picture opening a recorded video and just deleting a sentence from a paragraph of text. The matching slice of footage vanishes with it, instantly, with no scrubbing through a timeline. That's the whole idea. You edit the transcript, and the video simply follows along. Its transcription runs up to about 95% accurate, and that accuracy is the part that makes the trick usable instead of maddening. Think about the marketer who records a webinar on Monday and needs 3 short clips out of it by Tuesday morning. That's the difference between a lost afternoon and a coffee break. The limit is honest, though. Below decent audio quality, the accuracy drops, and you burn the time you saved fixing words by hand. So the rule here is simple. If you make spoken content every week, this is a real yes. If you don't, it's a clever answer to a question you never actually asked. Number 8, Wispr Flow. When did dictation actually start working? For years, it was a party trick you abandoned by Wednesday, full of typos and quiet rage. Wispr Flow is the first one a lot of people simply kept using. About 80% of its users were still on it 6 months in, and the company has raised somewhere near $81 million chasing that kind of stickiness. And the retention is the real tell here, not the funding. It cleans up your speech as you talk, so you can draft an email or a messy first paragraph by voice faster than you could ever type it. For a consultant who spends the whole day on calls, that turns dead minutes between meetings into finished drafts. Most people think faster than they type, and this is the first tool that actually closes that gap. Honestly, the catch is social, not technical. You have to be somewhere you can talk out loud, which quietly rules out a shared office or a silent cafe. Worth a week's trial if you write a lot and sit somewhere private. Number 7, Zapier and N8N. You know that part of your week where you copy something out of one app and paste it into another and then turn around to do it again? That dull little tax on your attention is exactly what these tools were built to eat. Zapier wires together something like 9,000 apps with tens of thousands of pre-built actions, so a new form can fill a spreadsheet that pings your team chat while you do nothing at all. This is also where the 2026 buzzword, AI agents, finally turns concrete instead of hand-wavy. Gartner expects 40% of business apps to have task-specific agents built in by 2026, up from under 5% a year earlier. And that's a forecast, a direction of travel, not a fact you can bank on yet. The useful signal is that automation is sliding from a weekend hobby into a basic expectation of how work gets done. The companies leaning in aren't hiring for it. They're quietly building it into the tools everyone already uses. The limit is just as real. And automation is only as reliable as the messy app on either end of it, and it will break quietly on a Friday when you least expect it. So start with one genuinely annoying task, not your entire job at once. Number 6, Cursor. Here's a tool I'm going to tell most of you to skip, and I mean that as a compliment to your time. Cursor is an AI coding workspace, so if you don't write code, it changes precisely nothing for you. But give me 30 seconds anyway, because it settles an argument that shadows this whole topic. People love to claim that AI tools are all hype with no real adoption behind them. Cursor quietly went from a demo to roughly $2 billion in annual revenue, more than 1 million paying users, and about 64% of the Fortune 500. In a JetBrains survey of more than 10,000 developers, the rival Claude Code jumped from 3% to 18% of work use in just 9 months. The real question is never whether a tool looks impressive in a launch video. It's whether people quietly kept paying for it once the novelty wore off. Here, clearly they did. That is exactly what a workflow-changing tool looks like from the outside, even when it isn't yours to use. And if you only remember one thing from this whole video, make it that. Did people keep using it after the hype faded? Everything else is just decoration. We're halfway down the list, and the tools only get more useful from here. Number 5, Gemini. The biggest, smartest model is rarely your best tool, and Gemini is the cleanest example of exactly why. Google says the Gemini app passed 750 million monthly users, so raw reach is plainly not its problem. What actually earns it a place on this list is where it lives. It sits right inside Gmail Docs and the rest of Google's workspace, one tab away from where your work already happens. If your day runs on Google, the assistant that's already there beats the slightly smarter one you have to go visit and paste everything into. That's the entire logic. Convenience compounds quietly every day, and half a point of extra intelligence rarely does. The tool you'll actually reach for is the one that's already open. The catch is simply the mirror image of that same point. If you live inside Microsoft or Apple instead, that home field advantage flips and starts working against you. So pick the assistant that's already where you work, not the one that wins a benchmark you will never personally run. Number 4, Perplexity. Search used to mean 10 blue links and a free afternoon you didn't really have. Perplexity answers the question directly and shows you the sources it pulled from, which is why people now run searches on it more than 100 million times a week at around a $21 billion valuation. For real research, checking a claim, scoping a new topic, getting oriented before a meeting, it changes the loop from go read everything to get the answer, then verify it. That shift sounds small. Over a working week, it gives you back hours. Say you're a consultant walking into a call about an industry you only half understand. 20 focused minutes here can get you fluent enough to ask genuinely sharp questions instead of nodding along. That verify step, though, is the limit, and it is not optional. It can still cite a thin or biased source with complete confidence. So you click through on anything that actually carries weight. Treat it as the fastest first draft of an answer, never the final word, and it earns a permanent place in a knowledge worker's week. Number 3, NotebookLM. There's a quieter category most of these lists skip entirely: grounded research. NotebookLM only answers from the documents you actually give it, your PDFs, your notes, your reports, and not from the open internet. It costs you $0 on the free tier, where you can load up to 50 sources into one notebook and ask questions across all of them at once. That means it stays locked inside your own material, which is the closest thing yet to a tool that won't quietly invent a fact on you. Picture a student staring down 12 dense research papers, or a small business owner sitting on 3 years of messy contracts. It can summarize, cross-reference, and answer straight from that pile in minutes instead of days. but grounded reduces invented answers. It does not erase them. It can still misread a source you handed it, so you check the quotes that carry real weight. For anyone who reasons over their own stack of documents, this is the most underrated tool on the entire list. Number 2, Claude. When the work gets serious, this is the one to reach for. Long documents, layered reasoning, careful writing, real code, Claude is where people go when a quick answer simply won't cut it. And the adoption pattern backs that up far better than any advertisement could. Among developers with 10 or more years of experience, 46% picked Claude Code as their daily tool, with a satisfaction score sitting around 91%. That's not a beginner's toy. That's experienced people choosing it precisely when the stakes are highest and a mistake costs the most. Beginners chase the loudest tool. Veterans quietly pick the one that holds up under pressure. The useful signal, as always, is who quietly adopts a tool, not how loud its launch was. The limit here is discipline. A calm, capable model still produces confident, well-written mistakes, so you stay the editor and it stays the draft. Ignore that, and you'll wave through a polished paragraph that's quietly wrong. If you go deep on a single assistant for your hardest work, this is a defensible place to plant your flag. And that brings us to number 1, which isn't the tool you're expecting. Number 1, the one you commit to. And yes, for most people that's still ChatGPT. About 800 million people use it every week by OpenAI's own count, up from around 500 million earlier in 2025. But number 1 isn't really a tool at all, it's a decision. The mistake every one of those lists trains you into is collecting 9 shallow tools you barely understand. The win is going deep on one general assistant until it genuinely knows your work, your voice, and the problems you hit over and over. ChatGPT, Claude, or Gemini. The brand matters far less than the depth. Pick the one that fits where you already work. Use it every single day for a month. Learn the precise things it's bad at, so you stop trusting it blindly. A marketer who truly knows one assistant will run circles around someone clutching a folder of 46 bookmarks they never open. Depth beats breadth, every time. What to actually do tomorrow. Here's what all 10 of these actually have in common. The good ones changed a workflow somebody genuinely repeats. The rest just demoed well on a stage. So you were never supposed to learn all 10. That was never the real assignment. Look at the 1 or 2 that touched a task you genuinely do every week. And start there, this week, with something small. For most viewers, the takeaway is simple. Pick one, go deep, ignore the other 8 on purpose, and feel decided instead of behind. That single choice will do more for you than any 10-tool list ever could, because falling behind was never really a tool problem, it's a focus problem. And the good news is that the test travels with you everywhere. The next time a shiny new AI tool trends, and the headlines insist you cannot live without it, ask the only question that has ever mattered. Does this change a workflow I repeat, or does it just look good in a demo? You already know how to answer that now, and that's the one skill worth keeping. So tell me down in the comments, which tool is genuinely in your weekly workflow, and which one did you try once and never open again? I read those because your honest answers are sharper signal than any list I could write.